It's funny sometimes how everything works out the way it's supposed to. Tao Pai Pai's clothes took 3 days to make. Goku took 3 days to get the Cho Seisui from Karin. Just imagine what would have happened if he'd gone to the tailor Yamcha will eventually go to get a new outfit in an hour. Then he would have just killed Appa while Goku was gone, or held him hostage for the Dragon Ball, maybe forced Goku to come down early. Instead, he's going to show up just in time to confront a newly powered-up Son Goku. Perhaps that's why Pai Pai kills the guy. Defying the laws of physics, Goku saves Appa from turning into silly putty against the Karin Tower and prepares to face Tao Pai Pai once more. After Pai Pai utterly fails in his proclamation of killing Goku in 3 seconds, they banter a bit, and he learns that Goku has drunk the super holy water. Even Pai Pai knows about it. You have to wonder if any kind of archaeological studies have been done on this place, or if passengers in airplanes try to take pictures of the top. You'd think a giant tower reaching to the heavens would at least be a massive tourist trap. Then again, maybe not. At any rate, this is a wonderfully choreographed battle lasting well over 2 straight chapters. I feel that Goku's double neck chop followed by the kick and crane stance are among Dragon Ball's iconic fight images. The TV series always seemed to like using that moment in flashbacks. In these chapters, we see Goku giving a very solid thrashing to this assassin, humiliating him in every way possible. He catches the Dodonpa. He lets Pai Pai beat him up only to show it does no good. He breaks the sword that Pai Pai pulls out in desperation. Tao Pai Pai's not one of those honorable fighters. He kills people for money. So it's no surprise he ultimately tries to save his own skin by begging forgiveness and then lobbing a grenade. The joke's on him, though, as Goku kicks it back to him, blowing him to smithereens. As that puffy yet body-free smoke indicates, I'm sure he'll never bother us again. The Red Ribbon Army is living on borrowed time. Colonel Violet, the only female member of the Red Ribbon Army we see, has used Blooma's Dragon Radar to collect a second Dragon Ball, so when Goku sees 2 balls grouped together, he surmises that it must be the Red Ribbon base, and decides to go there next. Violet's existence does bring Blue's earlier statement to Blooma in question when he told her that the Red Ribbon Army had no need for women. Maybe he was just talking about himself. The views of this individual do not necessarily reflect the views of the Red Ribbon Army as a whole. They're equal opportunity criminals. During Goku's approach, he's briefly joined by a tiny plane. At Kame House, Blooma's managed to not only find a change of clothes, but also build the spy robot. Lunch manages to be useful again. I know, right? By pointing out that he's heading toward the Red Ribbon Army headquarters. The robot being blown up upon approaching it confirms this, and everybody panics that Goku is doing this, believing him to be no match. The Muten Roshi reluctantly decides they have to help Goku, but the Sea Turtle reminds him they have no transportation. Wait, what? What happened to the Red Ribbon plane they came back in? Don't tell me Blooma took it apart to make this robot. Doesn't seem very forward-thinking of a girl stranded on a desert island. Oh well, whatever. It finally brings Yamcha back into the story as Blooma whips up a phone and calls him to bring a plane. Worth noting is that this is the first time we've seen Yamcha, Oolong, and Puar in 9 months. Sheesh. But this domesticated Yamcha is itching for a chance to get in a fight again, and he takes complete charge of this charge, bringing a plane to Kame House and rounding up everybody, and I mean everybody, handing out weapons to non-combatants like they're candy, and even picking Kuririn up out of the ocean. Meanwhile, the Red Ribbon Army has realized they're thoroughly screwed, so we get to see a lot of extremely satisfying scenes of Goku mowing down scores of men, gun emplacements, and vehicles. Hey, they made it personal. And Goku has come a very long way from that kid messing around with Silver and his thugs. He follows Turbo's Dragon Radar to Tower 8 where the Dragon Balls are held. Red and Black hurry there to head him off. By the time they arrive, the soldiers have already begun to flee. Black muses that they realize too late just how powerful Son Goku is, and suggests their only option is to abandon the balls. At this point, Red finally loses it and curses the fact that he has to give up his dream of being tall. Black is astonished. He was under the impression they were gathering Dragon Balls to rule the world. And I guess if you have or had some kind of conscience only to give all that up to kill and terrorize people as a profession, you're at least hoping you have a reasonable justification for doing so. Saying you're trying to conquer the world just looks better on your resume than trying to add a few inches to your boss. To his height. But Black's something of a turn lemons into lemonade kind of guy, so he figures giving himself a promotion to commander will at least punch up the old CV. When Goku smashes into the room, Black tries to negotiate with them, even agreeing to let Bora be wished back to life before taking over the world. But when Goku refuses, Black starts a fight, as if, after their generals and the world's greatest assassin failed, that this desk jockey will be able to do what they couldn't. So to even the odds, Black pulls out a mecha and almost believes he kills Goku, but even Goku's able to outsmart him, and with the old stop hitting yourself gag. After Goku manages to kick away a missile, Black decides to run for it. Which is what he was saying they should do before he killed Red. but Goku won't let him and solves his problem, like most of his problems, by smashing through. So Goku gets 2 more Dragon Balls, and Yamcha and the others arrive just in the nick of time to accomplish nothing, but offer Goku a ride. And here's where my division of arcs often comes into conflict with the ideas of others. A lot of people like to divide the following section into something separate from the Red Ribbon Army arc. And don't get me wrong, I can certainly see why. I mean, the Red Ribbon Army is defeated. The plot does indeed take on a very new, very different beat at this point, focusing on a different set of characters, accomplishing a different task in a very different way. What we just saw was very much a climax. So how can this be part of the same arc as everything else we've seen before now? Well, I'd argue that this fits more in classic dramatic structure, with the fall of the Red Ribbon Army being the climax, and this being classified as falling action. As far as I'm concerned, the crux of my argument for this being included is what I said in the last video. Bora's death was the turning point in this story. Up until then, it had just been a collection of adventures with no real narrative thread tying them together, nothing beyond sentimentality driving Goku. So Goku defeated the Red Ribbon Army, but there's no real resolution there. They were just the obstacle in the way of those 2 Dragon Balls. Nothing tied Goku specifically to the Red Ribbon Army when he started his quest, nor does anything tie them to him at the end. It's for this reason I see other people refer to this arc as the second hunt for the Dragon Balls, which I can agree with, and I suppose it even fits a little better than Red Ribbon, but overall I feel the Red Ribbon Army is enough of a recurring threat that they deserve the title. So anyway, the problem is that Goku can't find the last Dragon Ball. It's not showing up on the radar, and for once, it's not broken. I wonder if Bluma noticed this was a new device made from airplane parts. We do get a bit of Dragon Ball exposition from Bluma, such as learning that the balls won't just fly off into space, and that if an animal ate the ball, the organic material would block the radar. Finally, the Turtle Sennin has the answer. Ask Uranai Baba. The all-seeing fortune teller can answer any question, and since Goku can't read a map and Yamcha hasn't gotten to do anything this entire arc, he volunteers to take Goku, and Kuririn and Puar come along as well. Although the Turtle Sennin wonders to himself if Goku is strong enough for this, to lunch his confusion. In an attempt to at least appear presentable, they stop off at a small town to get Goku new clothes. Cheap clothes, because Yamcha's paying for them. And we get to humiliate Goku because that's just adorable. Goku decides this would be a good time to get Upa to join them, so he flies off. Now let's talk about Yamcha. At this point in the story, Yamcha is Fred from Scooby-Doo. He's the de facto leader, he drives everybody around, he comes up with the plans, he's doing lots of important things, but he's never really given anything interesting to do. Despite his best efforts, it's the dumb talking animal next to him who manages to save the day every time. That's gotta be frustrating. Granted, Kuririn's gotta be pretty embarrassed too as he loses the game of guess the gender to Goku of all people, believing Upa is a girl while Goku had correctly deduced he's a boy. They finally find a palace in the desert and are told by a little ghost servant to wait in line. Yamcha worries that everyone in front of them looks so tough, but Kuririn reasons they're just members of the same martial arts school. When a posh-looking couple exits, that seems to confirm it. But then they hear fighting noises and see the tough guys leaving, broken and beaten. So now the 5 are terrified as they're led in to meet Uranai Baba. However, their questions are soon answered. She charges 10 million zenny to divine a question, which explains the rich people, but if they can't pay, they're offered the chance to fight through a tournament to get the answer for free, hence the tough guys. Obviously, our heroes are going to fight their way through, and Kuririn especially is pretty smug. This is slightly different from the Tenkaichi Budokai, though. It's a team elimination tournament. If their group can make their way through each member of Uranai Baba's group of 5 fighters before their team is defeated, they win. Upa and Puar opt out of the fighting, and Kuririn volunteers to go first. As we'll see, Uranai Baba's fighters are parodies of classic movie monsters, so the first is Dracula Man, a skinny kickboxer who can change forms from man to bat. Kuririn is totally outclassed, as the bat flies around him and the man latches on and sucks blood from Kuririn's skull. He only manages to get free by slamming his own head against the ground. Fortunately, vampirism is curable by transfusion in this world, which the ghost offers if Kuririn gives up. Yamcha suggests Kuririn keep his cool to minimize blood loss, but Goku screws everything up by joking it looks like he has hair now. This leaves Kuririn open to be kicked out of bounds. A bit humbled, they make a new strategy and ask if Upa and Puar can join the fight as a team. The fortune teller agrees. They make a great comedy duo, with Upa banking on the stereotypical vampire no-nos like garlic in the shape of a cross, while Puar uses his shape-shifting abilities to ultimately win the day. Just as an aside, this is what makes a good ensemble. A collection of characters that all have their own unique skills to bring to the table, not just a bunch of strong guys who are overshadowed by the strongest guy. As we reach the 100th installment of the series, Yamcha takes over, deciding they should save Goku for last. They haven't quite gotten over their arrogance, as Yamcha suggests he could take on the remaining 4 himself. That's never really a good thing for him to say, and you'll notice this panel almost directly matches a panel from the next time he'll say that. He's informed, though, that his opponent is already here. It's Suke-san, or Mr. See-Through, so he's totally invisible. To go ahead and give it away, this is a fight Yamcha actually manages to win. Yay! However, many people dismiss this as Yamcha ends up requiring help to do so. That's true, but I think that's being a bit unfair. I mean, come on, the guy deserves whatever credit he can get. Yamcha does start the fight by getting his butt handed to him, but he does eventually learn to start hearing his opponent's movements and manages to score a hit on his own. I'd say it's fair he might have been able to best Suke-san on his own if Uranai Baba didn't notice Yamcha's strategy and start singing, keeping him from being able to listen properly. So both combatants get outside assistance. As for our side, Kuririn comes up with the plan this time. He sends Goku to bring back Bluma and the Muten Roshi, and when they arrive, Kuririn arranges them very carefully, and then pulls down Bluma's top. This causes the Muten Roshi to suffer a severe nosebleed and totally cover Suke-san. In a straight fight, Yamcha easily defeats the now visible man, and in true Dragon Ball fashion, sexual misconduct once again saves the day. Yamcha, however, doesn't get to see any of it, the poor dolt. At this point, the Muten Roshi reveals that the Uranai Baba is his older sister, which causes Kuririn to hope the nepotism will allow them to go ahead and get their question answered, but no dice. The next fight is inside, in the Devil's Toilet. When Yamcha asks for advice, the Muten Roshi tells him not to die. Now, I was first introduced to this part of the series through Curtis Hoffman's Dragon Ball manga summaries, if anybody nowadays even remembers those. So when I read about them fighting on tongues, I thought that was a figurative thing. Nope, there are literally tongues connected to demons sitting on toilets over a pool of acid. There's even a giant roll of toilet paper. Only in Dragon Ball. And this answers the often asked question of, do demons make out with each other while they poop? Yamcha's next opponent is Mira-kun, or Mummy-kun, which is pretty obvious given his appearance. He's a brute of a fighter, and Yamcha has quite a tough time with him, to put it lightly. While Yamcha theorizes he has the advantage of speed over the big guy, it turns out his opponent has quickness to boot, and Yamcha only manages to avoid death by grabbing onto the tongue. When not even the Roga Fufu Ken manages to land a blow, Yamcha does manage to outsmart his opponent and topple him over while the latter is gloating, but Mummy-kun wraps his bandages around the tongue to pull himself to safety. Now he's mad, and brutalizes Yamcha until he's forced to surrender. And Bluma once again proves what a wonderful girlfriend she is by calling Yamcha's performance pathetic. Maybe they should send her in next and see how well she fares. But no, it's Goku's turn, and he's the strongest of his group by far. Which means that everything we saw up until now was totally pointless.